Going into this season, there was a sense of optimism surrounding Turf Moor. Cornet mania was running wild, and the arrival of other smart signings, such as star centre-back Nathan Collins, meant that for the first time in a while, Burnley fans were excited for their future prospects. Fast forward to game week 15. Burnley sit in 18th place, level on points with Newcastle and Norwich, below them, having taken 1 point from the 6 available in fixtures against the bottom 2. After 14 games, there were 14 goals scored, 21 goals conceded, and a mere 10 points gained. Where had it gone wrong? It's important to note that Burnley starting slow in the Premier League is nothing new. One example is in the 2018-19 season, following a dismal performance at home to Everton on Boxing Day, leading to a 5-1 thumping. Burnley sat on 12 points from 19 games. 3 points away from safety, but feeling far further adrift. However, looking at the league table after 38 games shows that Burnley ended up surviving, finishing on the magical 40 points total, 6 points above the relegation zone. Sean Dyche's men have a habit of pulling off unlikely feats, so it would be foolish to completely write off Burnley's survival chances just yet. Yet that was a completely different league to now. The quality of the Premier League is constantly improving, with the 3 relegated teams being replaced annually with promoted teams, at least one of which usually survives comfortably. In order to survive, clubs need to improve year upon year, and this is something that Burnley has struggled with over the past few years. And a lot of this has to be put at the feet of supposed Burnley fan and ex-chairman Mike Garlick. Under Garlick, the club entered its most successful period since the 1970s, and Garlick deserves a lot of credit for this. The appointment of recently sacked Watford manager Sean Dyche seemed at the time to be a beige, cookie-cutter appointment, one that wouldn't last long term. However, it turned out to be the most important decision in the 21st century for Burnley. As Sky and BT commentators like to remind people every time Burnley play, the people of Burnley have named a pub after the former Chesterfield and Watford captain, showing the admiration that people have for the man. Almost overnight, the club culture seemed transformed. From the days of having to score 3 goals to get a draw, Sean Dyche solidified the defence, organised the basics, and turned Burnley into a team that no one wanted to play against. In the 13-14 championship season, the Clarets were third favourites for relegation according to the betting odds. They finished second, winning promotion to the Premier League. Burnley yo-yoed between the 2 divisions until the 16-17 season, where they finished a respectable 16th, getting 40 points and finishing 6th above the relegation zone. However, due to departures to key men Michael Keane and Andre Gray in the following transfer window, many people predicted a return to the Championship for Burnley. However, much like the 13-14 season, Burnley flipped the script. Thanks to some smart recruitment, including the likes of Chris Wood, Jack Cork, Charlie Taylor and Phil Bardsley, Burnley got the 17-18 season off to a flying start, winning 3-2 away at reigning champions Chelsea. This was a sign of things to come, and Burnley would finish 7th place, qualifying for the Europa League qualifiers, the club's first foray into Europe since 1966-67, or 1960-61, depending on how you view European competitions. However, this seems to be the turning point in Burnley's fortune, beginning the slippery slope that hasn't stopped until now. The previous mentioned summer transfer window of 17-18 was a success, as it marked the signing of 4 players who either went straight into the first team or established themselves as first team players in later years. Yet this was the last time that this was repeated. After finishing in the Europa League spot the previous season, Burnley failed to capitalise on that in the transfer market. The following 6 transfer windows, Garlick's last at the club, saw a net spend of £33.5 million. On average, only £5.6 million per window, spent over 13 players. Of those 13, only Josh Brownhill has managed to establish himself as a regular in Sean Dyche's side. 5 of those players, Peter Crouch, Aaron Lennon, Joe Hart, George Kevin and Kudu, and Danny Drinkwater, left the club with Burnley receiving no transfer fee, although the last 2 were loan transfers. Ben Gibson, the club's record signing at the time, left for half of what Burnley spent for him. Jay Rodriguez and Matty Vidra have been unable to cement themselves as regulars after being given limited minutes. Eric Peters was brought in with the explicit role as a backup, and whilst he's done a serviceable job, he hasn't made a significant difference in Burnley's league position. Dale Stephens hasn't shown anywhere near the quality required for the Premier League and has spent the entirety of this season on the physios table. Will Norris was brought in and has remained the third-choice goalkeeper, and Bailey Peacock-Farrell has been banished to the Sheffield Wednesday on loan, with his future uncertain. For 3 years worth of transfers for a Premier League club, that is absolutely embarrassing. Club representatives, never Mike Garlick, but usually one of his cronies such as Neil Hart or Mike Rigg, would justify this transfer policy by saying they were running the club to be self-sufficient and that the lack of quality transfers was down to a lack of money being available for transfers. That's understandable, admirable even, but did it not occur to Garlick that the cost of relegation would be far more than spending money on a player and his wages? Year after year, quality players will be passed up due to a lack of ambition from the board, and they will go on to thrive elsewhere. Calvin Phillips, Nicolas Pepe, Hakim Ziyech, Andy Robertson, Harry Wilson are just a few examples of players that the board couldn't justify paying an extra couple of £1 million for. Imagine where Burnley could be if the board had shown a lick of ambition. Instead of this, we were forced to rely upon players who would put in a graft but would ultimately not cost a lot because of either age or because of lack of quality. It's a testament to Sean Dyche that plenty of players have come in and significantly improved during their time at the club. Players like Nick Pope, Ashley Westwood, Ashley Barnes and James Tarkowski, just to name a few. However, if you rely on this strategy, you'll always get some duds. Does anyone remember Lucas Djukovic? Naki Wells? John Walters? Chris Long? Thought not. Towards the end of Garlick's tenure, the relationship had completely broken down, and it seems not out of the realm of possibility that Dyche would have left at the end of his contract had Garlick stayed. Some of his comments made it apparent he was fed up with Garlick. The squad is largely the same year upon year, and whilst there are positives and negatives to this approach, there needs to be some balance. Of the starting 11 against Newcastle, 8 players had been at the club since 2017. The other 3 being the previously mentioned Josh Brownhill and 2 signings made under the Alan Pace regime, Nathan Collins and Maxwell Cornet. Alan Pace seems to be shifting the club in the right direction recruitment-wise, bringing in an entirely new scouting system and recruitment staff, which has led the club to make its first signing from a foreign club since Stephen Defoe. Cornet has been a breath of fresh air at Turf Moor, and one might suspect that Burnley would be in a hell of a lot more trouble without him, considering how flat performances have been without him. Looking at the Norwich game in particular, where the game could have been played for 24 hours and would have remained 0-0. However, work is not done. The Clarets are crying out for more, in particular a creative midfielder and a centre-forward. I have to wonder if it's come a little too late.